Nice to see all of you. And a lot of graduates. A lot of alumni. Hello, Daniel, Matthew, Kayla, Justine is here in the house. Aaron Watkins is here. By the way, our next session will be alumni panel. So you don't want to miss that. There'll be, we'll have students from the last 2 graduating classes will be up on stage, and they'll answer all of your questions about college that you ever wanted to ask. Matt Kinlow, I met with him today, and he's going to put that together. He'll be reaching out to some of the alumni. The session we had last year, I think, was one of the best ones we've ever had with the alumni, so please don't miss that one. The session after that in July, Mrs. Bruner, you correct me or not, but our July session is for seniors and graduates only. There will be no seminar for anyone else in the month of July. Yes, Taisha? Current seniors graduating, going to college. They will receive their laptops and printers, go off to college. They'll also receive the guidelines on staying in the program, what needs to be done, and what date is that, Mrs. Bruner? July?
It's July 10th.
July 10th. Okay, so June you come, everyone. July, you can have the month off. We'll see you back in August. What's August, Mrs. Bruner?
It's the College Ready seminar where we're going to invite all the early college seniors and all the camp students to come see all the colleges, our 8 Big 8 parties.
Oh, okay. Yep. Okay. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay, so it hasn't been a very good year for me so far, physically. Everything else is okay. But I'm going to blame this on my cats. Can I get away with that? No? I can't. Taishana said no. She didn't even hesitate. So we have 2 cats, Himalayan and Persian. They're actually sisters. One's pure white, the other one is grayish. Kind of looks like the head of my hair. And they're both long hairs. But as soon as, so when we want to get them to the groomer, as soon as they hear the cages, the carry cages, they run and we never find them. Matter of fact, Ashes, the one cat, missed the grooming appointment. She missed a grooming appointment twice last year because we just couldn't find her. I mean, I don't know where she hides, but anyway, she's got the place. So we kind of whisper. We don't even talk about a groomer. We don't, we don't want to jinx it. And we kind of sneak up on them at the same time. And my wife Leslie grabs one, and I grab the other. So everything was going fine. The cages are downstairs. They're in the basement in an unfinished area. So Mrs. V's got Ashes, and she's going down the stairs, and I got the other cat, Snowball, the white one, and I'm carrying her in both arms. And my steps go down this way, and then turns and it goes down this way, and I'm on the second tier of the steps. I'm about 3 steps from the bottom, and this leg gives out, and this one stays. And the cat in my arms, so I can't brace myself, I can't grab onto the railing or anything. So I go down and I fell flat on my leg that was extended underneath my body. So, and broke my foot, my ankle. So I want to blame it on a cat. No. Taishana still says no. All right. But anyway, I'll be back in shape here in about 4 or 5 weeks. So what we want to do is, we're going to start off, Mr. Bruner's going to help me, and that is on a reflection on our education program. I thought it was a great panel, and so if you open up your notes to the last session, where we had the education panel with the superintendent. Okay, so who's got some comments on the education program?
Okay, I'm going to try to move over to you. You have questions, so I'll let you talk and then I'm going to add some things afterwards.
Well, I'm going back on what Ms. Pond said. She said, actively volunteer with successful people in your career path to build relationships because it can lead to finding a job. And you should learn how to forget more and forgive.
So a couple things. There's some good points that were made and the observations. Just to establish this first off, I do want to go all the way back and just thank Mr. V. We suggested that he would stay home, rest, and everything like that, but this is a passion of his, and that he wanted to come in and interact with the students and stuff like that. So, thank you for doing that. And he really hate that he did miss the banquet. He had kept in contact with us, phone and everything, just to know how things were going, and he wanted pictures and everything like that. So, thank you for what you add and give to the program. The folks that we had last month for our education panel, as you know, was your superintendent wanted to be a part of it. The lady that was up there, Mrs. Savage, as you can look at the notes, she is my direct supervisor, so she's the gap between me and the superintendent. So any of the issues or concerns that I have, she helps to monitor and run all of the high school programs, and there are 3 others that are like her that take care of middle school, the upper elementary, and the lower elementary. And then you can see that the other person that we had on stage, I wanted to have someone that was part of our human resources, and that's the part that Mrs. Savage fills in. So she helps out our human resources director who wasn't able to attend. But our person that's the supervisor of all of the maintenance buildings and everything like that. So he's in charge of every single building, piece of property, down to the textbooks. He manages and handles all of that, and that was the man that you heard from, and that was Mr. Ellsworth. Then we had a flavor of teachers, from one that was brand new, and that was Spencer Garrity, all the way up to some that were a little bit more seasoned. So out of all of that, all of the skill sets that we have up here, we wanted you to gather knowledge, not only just about the education, because there were a few folks that were interested in that, but also just about entering into a career field and what you had to do irregardless of what career pathway you chose. So if there's anything that you wanted to share that you picked up or that you learned from, and we need to hear your voice project out, so I'm going to ask you to step out your comfort zone, and if you're in the back row or two, to come up and grab the mic and go ahead and speak. And keep in mind that we're amongst friends. This is a smaller, tighter-knit group family within the early college high school family model. So there should be no fear of coming up and sharing some of the things that you want to share with the group here. Anyone else have anything they want to add to what Tyshana said?
One thing that just stuck with me that Mr. Allison said, he said, take calculated risk. If you stay in your comfort zone, you'll never get better. And that's kind of true because I'm very closed off, and if somebody doesn't talk to me, then I kind of won't talk to them back, but it's kind of be aggressive with the situation. If an opportunity presents itself, take it, and because if you don't, somebody else will. So just step out of your comfort zone and see what you can find, because it might end up being something that you're stuck with for the rest of your life.
That's a good point about taking risks. One of our 16 habits was taking the responsible risks, and that means that you need to try something that causes you to step out of your comfort zone, just to explore, to get an understanding of what you're going into. every single person in here, and we had mentioned this, I think, when we had the senior banquet, has a purpose that they're to step out in, and that takes a little bit to get there. That takes this motivation that you have inside and that drive to make it so that you go. So just keep in mind that all of those are tied to this risk factor. You guys are stepping out in a sense and doing that as well, as far as these calculated risks to make yourself better. Any other points? Anything else?
I forget who talked about this, but someone said that if you get the wrong degree, it doesn't necessarily close all the doors to the career that you choose as like your second career. And I thought that was very important because I know a lot of us are worried about choosing the wrong career, and that even if we get this not the right degree for our field that we choose later, it won't close off of those doors.
You'll always end up in where your purpose place is supposed to be. Can you imagine me being in the field of architecture? That was my chosen pathway from 4th grade all the way up to like 7th, 8th grade. That was, I had my heart set on that. Then I fluctuated, went back and forth. As soon as I got out the military, so that's about 2021, something sparked, and I was going through and I wanted to go actually into actuary science and be an insurance adjuster, write the formula codes for insurance companies. Switched over to a math teacher. It was like I had this field experience that they didn't force you to do it, but they wanted to expose you to it, especially math and science teachers, because there's this great need to get them in. And it was like, I think that was my calling. I got to work with, I think, it was elementary, and then when I hit the middle school, I went to Faircrest Middle School and had to do field experience there, and I was hooked. I said, math was where I'm supposed to go. And the rest was history. Any other?
Just one of the things that A.G. Allison said that kind of stuck with me. It said, you're not entitled to anything but hard work. And I just thought that really stuck with me, because you're not going to go anywhere unless you work hard.
Excellent point. No matter what you step into, no matter what you do, that work that you have to do, that drive, that hard work is the thing that's going to get you there. So nothing's going to fall in your lap as a parent, because you guys are here on a Sunday. Anything else? Anyone want to add?
Well, while Mr. Ellsworth was talking about balance and job flexibility, he stated the fact that you should know your purpose for working. That's what should keep you motivated. Like, you shouldn't go to work feeling like, I want to be here, this isn't what I want to do. Find your purpose and then take a career in that path.
Great point. Now, keep in mind, why do we have these internships, these sort of exposures, these things that we want you to go out and investigate? Think of it as several ways. The career sort of pathways have changed a little bit. It's not so common anymore for folks to go out and what career they started out with is what they're going to end up with at the end of 30, 35 years or whatever in their career field. So you get to make out what your path then would be, but you've got to expose yourself to all of the opportunities that are made available for you. Sometimes putting you in some sort of internship or service learning may be counter to what you're going into, but that exposure, the hard work that you'll get, the connections that you'll make, all of those things are purposed to make it so that you'll have a better experience and a better field to choose from as far as what your career pathway is going to be. Anyone else? Take a few more.
Mr. Siraj said, Ms. Siraj said, you should start how you finish, which is strong, because you don't want to
like during your interview process, like, oh yeah, I'm a hard worker, this and that, but then a few weeks later after you got the job, you're slacking off. So just start how you finish. Finish how you start.
It's an excellent point. I'll take one more. Okay, I see two more, so okay.
I like the point, like, with Ms. Consa, how she was saying how when she first got out of, like, college, it was hard for her to, like, find a job, like, in her field. However, she, like, reached out to, like, one of her professors, and he, like, told her, like, well, this person is, like, the best of the best in this career, and so she went to them and, like, asked to, like, volunteer, and, like, even though the lady told her was like, well, we don't really have a, like, a intern program, she still, like, pushed to, like, she still pushed to, like, show up and, like, help out wherever she could, and later on she found out that that company actually started an internship program based off of what she did. So, like, I just feel like if you can't find a job, use, like, volunteering or, like internships as a way to, like, possibly get a job later on down the road just by volunteering or starting off by volunteering somewhere. So.
I just wanted to say before, I kind of wrote fast, so Miss Siraj doesn't exist. It was Savage. Okay, but Mr. Garrity said, for advice, he said, have patience. Results aren't always sudden. Take life one day at a time and build relationships with everyone.
And the sad thing was, I was up here racking my brain like, thank you. So I missed somebody to kind of look at. All right.
Thanks, Ken. So, what I love about Taishana is not only does she take copious notes, but she's also honest. I was also impressed with, there was a piece in there which I also think is key, and we talked about work-life balance a little bit, and I can honestly say when I was working, and you're going to hear a speaker now coming up shortly, 60, 70 hours a week working in the corporate world is not unheard of. Matter of fact, it's very common practice. Big rewards, however, when you talked about working hard, that's the only thing that's due to you. It's funny because in the corporate world, really the only way you get ahead is you work hard, and you work as hard as you work. That's how high you're going to go. And I think I said it to you. You outwork the other person. Your boss gets in at 7 o'clock. You get in at 6:30. They get in at 6:30. You get in at 6:15. Whatever. The sky is the limit, and you will get rewarded. But the work-life balance is a lot different in education than it is in the corporate world, and some of these jobs that you're seeking. So I ask you to think about that, because education does afford you an opportunity to have what I would call a balanced work-life balance. And so when you're thinking about possibilities of raising families and how involved you want to be with your family and your kids and things like that, that's another consideration. So as you're picking career paths, those are things that should be on my want list. The person who's going to come up here, kind of a surprise speaker, is my son. And when we were talking about him and his career path, my recommendation to him was you get out a blank piece of paper and you put your wish list down. And your wish list includes everything from how much do I want to make, to how many hours I want to work, to Do I want to be involved with kids or seniors, or do I want to be a manager or a supervisor or a CEO, or do I want health benefits and dental benefits? And it's whatever your wish list is, and then that's, you work towards that, and you work on that, and everything you do from school on out, family, career-wise, is all geared towards accomplishing that checklist. So you've heard of people having a bucket list. Well, it's your bucket list for your life and your career. You know, so education does afford you things that the corporate world and the outside world does not. So I ask you to think about that. Before I do, it did dawn on me that this is probably an appropriate time to congratulate many of you who will be starting work through the CAMP program in apprenticeships or internships coming up this summer. Some of you will have already started, some of you will start as early as the next week or two. So if you are currently employed in a camp, apprenticeship, or internship, and/or the CADDY program, could you just stand up for 1 second, please? Is everybody, Tessa, Misha, come on, Megan, where are you guys? All right, congratulations to you. Give them a round of applause. Thank you. Just a note on that. I think we will have 25 students in jobs and apprenticeships this summer. We started out 3 years ago, we had 7, and we grew that to 14. We had 19 last year, and this year we'll wind up with 25. When you're in camp, those jobs and those apprenticeships are not guaranteed. They are a benefit that comes out. In many cases, we don't even have the jobs because I potentially could have more jobs than I have students. Now, what does that mean? This whole process is a constant learning on your part. And when Mr. Savodio gets up here this afternoon, and even when my son gets up, that's all part of the learning. So that's what we agreed to. We agreed to share all of this knowledge and expertise and to open your eyes and ears, and all these copious notes that Taishana's taking. We're hoping that as she goes through her journey, she's going to be thinking about things like what the education panel offered her, what Mr. Savodio is going to offer her, what my son is going to offer her. And if you do that enough times for 12 months, 24 months, some people have already been in the program 36 months or more, and the two that strike me as Mackenzie and Jack Pearson. Since it's the program's inception, I'm sure I missed some people, but those are the ones that come to mind right now. And so that sharing of education and that sharing of knowledge, which is what you do in a classroom every day, we're just trying to do that from a career perspective, okay? Your responsibilities, and then how you act and how we evaluate whether somebody is potentially a candidate for an apprenticeship, a job, and so on and so forth, has to do with things like your attendance, things like communication. Do you communicate? Do you communicate at the right time? Do you communicate properly? Do you want it? Do you want it? Are you coming up to myself, Mrs. Bruner, Mr. Bruner, inquiring about jobs, what needs to be done to get to that point? Are you, when asked to do something and fill something out, or get back to us with something, is it done with the same kind of accuracy and passion that you would give to a teacher who's requiring an assignment or a test? Or are you just sending garbage out and saying, well, here, I did it, and you're kind of checking a box? So, attitude has a lot to do with it. Feedback from Mrs. Bruner and Mr. Bruner have a lot to do with it. So this is not, again, I never in my wildest dreams ever thought we would have 25 summer jobs for students. I didn't know what the number was. I knew we could get some. I'm convinced now I could get 50. But I don't get the jobs and then find the students. I will be developing my list for 2017 next year, all the way through this year. And I'll be observing, and I'll be making notes, and we'll be doing interview processes with Mrs. Bruner and I. We'll be comparing notes, and we'll be doing everything we need to do, and it'll be a constant checks and balance until next year. And then as I get closer to February, March, April, we'll be refining the list, and it's a constant chessboard until we make the final decisions. And age factors into it. Many of the jobs that we're getting on the, almost all of them on the apprenticeship program is 17 and above. We do have some 16s at Habitat and so on and so forth, but in general it's a 17 and above. We're putting you in jobs that are generally reserved for college students. People that are freshmen and sophomores, but you're getting the opportunities to go into these jobs earlier because we convince them that you're scholastically ready and maturity-wise you're ready. So, but keep in mind, we don't make these decisions in a vacuum. Your reaction, what you do, how you handle yourself, how bad you want it, what you turn in when asked, and everything goes into the equation and the evaluation. So I will meet with you. I'm here all the time. I think I even said it before, sometimes I'll be here for lunch and I might get one or two students that come up to me and say hello. And Mr. Bruner's even commented to me, it's like, why don't these students come up and say hi to you and talk to you? And I don't know. So I'm here all the time, I'm accessible. If you're constantly at me, you're asking me questions, you're asking me good questions, you're interested, you want to know what it's going to take, you want to know what skills you have to develop to be prepared when the phone call comes or the email comes or the text comes. That's how we make our decisions, okay? We have students in camp that have graduated. They've graduated 2-3 years already. They're still in camp. They're invited anytime they want to come. When they reach out, we'll help them in any possible way that we can. They're always going to be in camp. Now all of our graduates are getting laptops and printers. That's another great advantage. We're going after a transportation program to afford driver's ed for all of our camp students. We'll keep you posted on that, but we're going to keep going and try to get you as much as we can. And that's what we're committed to. But I'm accessible 24/7. You could always say, hey, when are you going to be down at the school? Can we meet? I want to talk to you, and we can discuss anything, okay? And congrats to all those students. We still have 1 or 2 more decisions to make. We'll be making them in the next week. But okay, so the surprise speaker, and by the way, Mr. Savodio is going to get up. He was the plan speaker, and this is an exciting session on finances 201. And please, and I know all you seniors graduating, at least you told us that last year that your biggest anxiety is the debt. And this debt, I asked the question, and I don't think I got the real answer from the education panel, but I don't think they have the answer. I think they just agreed that this education debt is out of control at the higher levels. And somebody's got to look at what's going on. They got to look at look, the same thing is happening in other industries like sports and so on and so forth. I mean, you're paying people $20-something million a year to play a sport. I mean, and they're getting, you know, it's coming from the general public, and as long as they keep paying, that's what's going to happen. So as long as people keep paying the education price, these endowments are going to go up. The salaries for these higher educators are going to go up. They're going to keep putting buildings up that they don't need, and it's a vicious cycle. So somehow, some way, it's got to be stopped. But Mr. Savodio can help you, and here's another thing you can do. He's a great person. After this meeting, you can get in touch with him personally, and you can discuss your personal situation, because sometimes we can't financially discuss the personal situation. But Mr. Savodio will help you. I know he will do that. And in most cases, you have to pay for that. If I was to call Mr. Savodio through the business contact and say, hey, I'd like some help with my financial situation, there's a charge for that. So, you know, please feel free to do that, especially if you're stuck and you don't know where to go. So this young man is my son, and he has been asking for about 2 years. He says, I'd love to come and speak. And he came in for a wedding, and I thought he was going home today, but he's actually going home tomorrow, so I corralled him. And my son is an associate marketing manager at the Unilever Corporation. He'll explain what he does. Matt, come on up.
Hello. I'm really excited to be here. This is a great program. I like to think of myself as kind of the guinea pig to camp, right? So if you think my father comes down hard on any one of you, try being his son. But you know, my career path is going to be, you know, similar to many of yours. So as you progress, you know, I'll share my experience, but you know, really, this program is intended and designed to like help get you there. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my education and background. You know, what is marketing? Because many of you are probably, you know, wondering, marketing. Everybody throws out this term. What does that really actually mean? And then just some, you know, because I was in your shoes, you know, 10, 12 years ago, not too long ago. But what would I tell myself now? That was actually, I was at this wedding, connecting with a lot of friends that I hadn't seen in some time. And so, you know, I drove one buddy home. We got into the conversation of, you know, if I only knew what I knew now, like back when I was 18, you know, how much better would I be, you know, how much more successful, those sort of things. So hopefully you can take some of what I can tell you today and put it into practice. Some of it might be, you know, down the road, far out, but the idea here is to, you know, get the skills, get the learning, get the tools. You may not be doing it today, but to put it into practice at some point in time in your life. And that's what education is designed to do. You're taking all these classes, you know, you're learning about, it might not be fun. You say, I'm sitting in algebra, you know, I'm learning about, like, you know, math principles and stuff like that, but it's really the core foundation for, you know, what you're going to apply in the future. So I guess just to kind of walk through my background. So I went to school right down the road in Akron. Went to St. Vincent St. Mary. Many of you know St. V because of LeBron, and so I'll just answer the question. Yes, I went to high school with LeBron. I was there for 2 years, my freshman and sophomore year. But that was, exciting time. Got to see, get exposure, and there was some really cool stuff going on, with him and his career and how he was going to progress. And it's been cool to see how he's kind of taken the foundation and the fundamentals that were taught there and applied it to his career because, he's done, I think, great. He's given back to the community, so he's really an example to live by as well. If you look at, because you'll start looking at people around you and say, who do I want to be? What type of principles does this person have? You figure out, you talk about purpose, what your purpose is. And really, as you sort of define that, you're going to shape your life and your career and what matters most to you. So, went to school at St. Vincent St. Mary. Then I went to Ohio University. I majored in marketing and international business. So, if you're not thinking about it, you should consider a minor or a double major. That's something in addition to what your primary focus is, but can give you exposure to another area of expertise, and can help you as a selling point. Because you'll also figure out, you'll say, okay, it's kind of daunting. There's a lot of people. Like you're going to be going to school with thousands, hundreds of thousands of people nationally. So you say, what's my competitive advantage? So what makes you stand out? What differentiates you? That could be a double major. It could be some extracurricular programs. While I was at Ohio University, I participated. It was called the Marketing Honors Program. So that was an 18-month program. It was totally on my own accord. You had to apply, but it was something that was an 18-month process that gave me skills. I wrote a thesis at the end of it. So, there's a lot of things when you get to college that are going to be distractions. So my advice to you is really stay focused, right? And so, as you're going through this program, you're defining what you want to do, what your purpose is going to be. Don't let those distractions get in the way, right? There's always going to be a party going on. There's always going to be, some type of event. But really what you want to say is, okay, what are my long-term goals? And is that going to get me there? If it's not, then maybe you should spend, another hour or so studying or whatever it may be. But that would be my first piece of advice to give you, is just say, try to limit the distractions, because it's going to come, from everywhere and at every point in your life. So really just stay focused. So out of Ohio University, it was I graduated in 2009. If you look at some of the macro factors going on at the time, there was a recession, there was a housing bubble burst. So it was a tough time, and many of my friends who graduated at that time took a while to figure out what they wanted to do. But I had defined what my purpose is going to be, where I wanted to focus, and I looked up to my father as a figure. He worked for Kraft Foods for his career. So I said, I've seen him be successful. He gave me a lot of great opportunities growing up. So this is a career path that I wanted to go down. But I said to myself, I like sales. It's where I started, but I don't want to move all the time, because we made 9 moves. So I've lived all across the country, from New Jersey to California to Colorado. And my intention and my goal is to, be running a company one day. So I then looked to the field of marketing. So I guess just jumping ahead, marketing sort of sits, when you look at a company at the top, imagine it's a pyramid. So the people who are running these companies tend to be from marketing or from finance, because you got to give a return to the shareholders, you got to make money, so they responsibly account for the funding. And Mark will talk to you in much more detail about finance. But I'm sort of more of like a general manager, right? So there's all these different functions that sit underneath. So you have your supply chain department. So, you know, every single piece of material in front of you, whether it was the nuts or the water, that was produced somewhere. So there was a factory that made it. There's a process to it. In order for it to be taken to you guys in the masses, you know, and be attainable and affordable, somebody had to produce that. But it all started sort of, you got to back up. It started with an idea. So somebody said, I'm going to put water in the bottom, right? And they were like, people looked at them and they probably said, you're crazy, right? Nobody's going to buy that. You can get water anyway. But now every single one of you has a bottle of water sitting in front of you. So, so really you got to think is, what's the consumer behavior? What are people doing? What are the human truths? You know, how do people behave? How do they act? How do they think, right? And so then out of that, these ideas, these products come to life, right? So Unilever, my company, is, most people, I liken it to Procter & Gamble. So most people know a lot of the brands like Tide and Bounty and those sort of brands. It's not as well known in terms of like corporate brand, but if I told you Dove and Ben & Jerry's and Breyers and Klondike and Lipton Tea, so those are some of the brands that my company makes. I work specifically on Vaseline. So some people would say, Vaseline, that's in my cabinet, it's boring, what can you do with that? How do you tell people about Vaseline, right? So we have to come up with creative ways, and we say, oh, well, you can use Vaseline for cuts, and you can use it for burns, and you can use it for like lip balm, right? Exactly, you just launched a lip balm product. Yeah. You can use it for, somebody told me their horse's hoofs, right? And somebody said they put it on their cat's nose when they get sick. There's things up. So, I mean, there's millions of uses that people they're taking these products, they're using it for, right? So we then need to figure out creatively, how do we talk to people about it, right? So we have a PR team, we have a social media team, we have a media buying agency, right? So we come up with these ideas and these themes that we want to group things under. So many of you may have seen, we signed Viola Davis, she's a spokesperson. We're doing something called the Healing Project. But that was born out of an idea. So we said, what do we need to do as a brand? There was an article written, some people went to, it was dermatologists, they went to Jordan, right? And they said, we're going to pack all the materials that we would need for this trip, because we're going to help people in need, right? And they packed medicine, bandages, supplies, whatever it may be. And they came back and they wrote, the New York Times published an article and they said, had we only known a simple jar of Vaseline is all we needed. There's people with simple skin conditions. They can't get to work. They can't, you know, do things, and just staying moisturized and helping these people with these needs, Vaseline was the best tool for them to use. So we latched onto that and we said, how can we make this idea big? How can we give purpose to it, right? So the foundational idea that we can help people in need, right? And then we say, okay, people know and recognize the brand, they have an understanding, we have a history, right? And so then we took that idea and we put a campaign around it. So we bought television spots, right? We put a television ad together. We launched social media posts. So we worked directly with Facebook. We participated in conferences, like the World Dermatologist Conference. Just different things to get the message out. And at the core of it is our goal to help people in need, right? So when you say, this is my personal, purpose, right? And I can stand up here and say, my personal purpose, eventually, my goals, right, is to one day to make enough money, to have a family, to give back, right? So the steps that I've taken along the way in my definition of my purpose is kind of what shaped and guided my career. So I guess just rewinding to post-college, I moved out to Phoenix. I started in sales. And I said, eventually I'm going to get into marketing, but how do I get there, right? And so if you go into marketing, it's a field where traditionally you need a master's degree, right? So I said, well, I don't have a master's degree. That'll take time, but as we just discussed about school and finances, right? I had to start making money, right? Because I needed to support myself and stuff. So I took a job in sales. I was driving around, I was selling Quaker, Tropicana, Gatorade. This was out in Phoenix. I was working hard. I was putting the product, taking it from the back room, putting it on the shelves, right? I was working long hours. But that was my in. It wasn't a sexy job. I was not making very much money. I moved far away from home. But that was how I was gonna, shape my purpose, shape my career. Overall give that sort of definition to my life. So started in sales, and then another opportunity in sales came about with Unilever. So worked on a customer account. I called on a buyer, and if many of you are in that position one day, it can be very challenging because as you sell something, you have to sell your idea, you have to sell your brand, you have to market yourself. So if you look at all of you, just to boil it down to like a personal perspective, you are brands, right? Each individual one of you is a brand. So Chelsea is a brand, right? Mackenzie's a brand. And you have to say, what do I want my brand to be, right? So you're going to go on interviews, you're going to present to people, but you are selling yourself, you're selling your ideas at the core of it, right? So, similar to how you would sell a product, you need to sell yourself personally. So you've all, come dressed nicely today. That's a representation of what brand you want to be. You have notebooks in front of you. That shows professionalism. So that's how you're defining your brand. You're gonna have people looking at you, and so you just constantly have to sell and market yourself. So marketing, while it is this sort of theoretical idea, it's also something that you're all doing, right? And you're all selling. You're selling yourselves. You're selling your ideas. That's going to be something important. Like as you go forward, is how do I craft my story? How do I craft, my pitch? If I only have 5 minutes to speak to somebody, what do I want to tell them, right? Because people, I think there's a statistic that says within 60 seconds, somebody's already formulated an opinion, right? And so in order for you to overcome that barrier, it's really important, right, how you talk to them and how people perceive you. I think that's, you may not even say something to them. You might not even get to that point. So definitely important to present yourself professionally and realize that, what you do and what you say matters. Started to sell my product, sell myself, sell my ideas, right? And so then I took a job outside of sales, within a supply chain function. Making the product, that was my responsibility within the organization. But I still had to present myself and sell my ideas, get people to listen, come up with new ideas. And then I finally, doors opened through that. I was doing my master's, graduated with my MBA, and it took about 6 months for me to sell myself, to market myself, even within my own company. So you could say I had a reputation, I had performance, I had a lot of hard work, people knew me, but it still took a while to get there. So, you know, you'll experience setbacks, right, along the way, but you gotta look at them as hurdles, right, and not walls. So what's gonna not stop you from getting to where you want to be, right? So I was at the point where potentially I was going to leave the company. I said, let me give it one more shot. And somebody hired me, took the opportunity, saw value in me, saw my hard work, saw the ideas I was selling, right? And so they said, you know, we'll give them a shot. So I got into marketing, where I'm currently now. So I guess just when you look at marketing holistically, right, it really boils down to getting more people to buy your product, to pay a specific amount of money, right, to use it more often. So that's kind of the theoretical sort of definition of what marketing is. But within marketing, it's really about the running of the company. It's the creation of ideas. It's the bringing products to life. It's about responsibly managing the finance, leading teams and people, motivating people, right? So not only do I have to come into work motivated, I need to get others to work with me and motivate me. So it's about teamwork. So that's a big one. That's important. It's about networking, right? Because I need to create something. So I need to, like, if it's not already produced or built, you know, I need to reach out to people. So just in terms of networking, you know, as you go forward, like, think about it, like, the people that you are sitting around you, because it's really cool, actually, like, you guys are going to be in 5, 10 years, you're going to be in my position, you're going to be reaching out. This is your network, right? This is where it can start. So, you know, take note of people, you know, figure out like who you would want to associate with, but also, you know, I think it just boils down to like just being kind to everyone as well. It's kind of a humanity to this, but you know, you may get distractions along the way. There may be some, you know, some gossip at school or this and that, but really you want to just make sure it's all leading sort of to your end goal and what is your purpose and how you define yourself. So that's kind of, you know, my story per se, and some of the things that if I rewound, I would say, you know, take note of these things. I think it's really cool that you guys have a forum here, and you know, you're getting these skills and stuff. So, you know, maybe what I said isn't applicable today, but you know, in 5 years, 10 years, whatever it may be, you can sit there and, you know, as you put the pieces of the puzzle together, you can say, oh, this is what they were talking about, or this makes sense now. Because it's still coming together and clicking for me. So, but always, you know, always ask why, always seek for understanding. You know, it's our jobs to explain things to you, to help you understand why. It's your job to, you know, understand it and to take consideration of it and to put it into practice. Because you, at the end of the day, you're the ones driving your future, right? Mr. Bruder, when you guys graduate, it's not going to be him driving your future, you're driving your future. So really take that into consideration and, you know, understand that what you do matters and now, and this is how you're going to provide your competitive advantage. This is what you're going to tell people about. And this is how you're going to grow and develop as a person. So, yeah, so that was a lot of me talking. I don't know if there's any questions, but, you know, feel free to reach out. You know, we can answer questions now, but my email as well is matt.venturella@gmail.com. If you guys have questions about marketing, and feel free to reach out. Yes?
Spell out your email.
Matt, M-A-T-T, .venturella. So my first name, my last name, @gmail.com. Yes? Sure.
I just wanted to ask about your college experience at Ohio University, because I was actually thinking about going there, so I had a lot of questions. Like, what was your ACT when you got in?
I don't even remember, right? So, to that point, I would say, like, just as what I was speaking about, they're really going to evaluate you holistically on your background. So, you know, I wouldn't put so much emphasis on one piece of it, but I think your experiences are going to help, like, show them who you are. Ohio University is a great school. I mean, it has this reputation for being this party school, and that is there if you want to partake in that. But it also just got rated the 14th best undergraduate business school in the country. So, you know, and there's a lot of great schools in and around this area with a lot of great programs. So, it's what you make of college, and it's about limiting those distractions. But, yeah. Did that answer your question? Yeah, okay. Good. Yes?
Mine is also about college. What did you expect after you finished your program? Did you expect to get a job like as soon as you got out, or did you know like you were going to have to wait and work another job?
So, yeah, I think you shouldn't expect, like, you know, I think it was mentioned earlier, for things to be handed to you, right? So there wasn't a department there saying, here's your job, like you've graduated college, right? But there is a like career placement service, right? And so you can go there, you can work with them, they help you with the networking. So that's, you know, it's your motivation, it's your drive that's going to get you there. There's career fairs, right? So again, it's, you know, your brand, what do you want to tell people about, like how do you represent yourself, your drive, your motivation, those sort of things that are going to get you the job. And I had a lot of friends expect, you know, I'm going to graduate college and make, you know, $50,000, I'm going to make $100,000. And it's really not realistic to expect, right? So you got to start somewhere, you got to start at the bottom in anything you do. And eventually work your way up to a place where potentially you will make that kind of money. But it's really the people who take the opportunity, right, and build their skills and develop that, you know, it becomes apparent, right? It's like, your goal is to be successful, right? And you're going to do what it takes to get the job done. So, I guess in terms of graduating college, you know, if you do everything and you use these skills and stuff, that's what's going to get you. Sure. Yeah.
So would you say, like, would it be a good idea to like minor in marketing? Because really wherever you go, you have to market yourself no matter what job you want to get into?
Yeah, I would say like if minoring in business, you know, it's great if you want to explore other career paths and you know, you're really driven towards education, but I would say minoring in business is really powerful. That'll get you exposure and some experience in that field. If you look at education, right, anything, a hospital, medical field, they're all run by businesses, right? So it's great to have that as like, you know, a fallback on, so you're not necessarily starting from ground zero if your chosen field doesn't work for you. So, okay. All right, thanks. I really appreciate the time. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Matt. I think, yeah, Matt just touched on it, but you also should be thinking as part of your list is if you want to go on in a career path that needs a master's, or you would like to pursue a master's eventually, one of your items on your wish list should be, could I get anybody to pay for me to go for my master's? Unilever paid for his master's at Fordham. So that should be one of your wants on your list, okay? Also networking, okay? So networking is, Matt talked about networking here. Let's say you want to network in the financial community. Mr. Mark Savodio, who you know over there, can be a good friend through your college days, and as long as you stay with camp. Matt Sigley was sitting next to his liaison, Mr. LaRocca, 45 years in engineering. Matt wants to be in engineering. Miss Justine Chester is very good friends now and probably would consider at the right time Mrs. Westerbrook as one of her mentors and liaisons. And those are contacts, and those are worth a fortune. Okay, so as you go through this, if you're smart, you will make these connections, you'll keep them, you'll nurture them, you'll grow them, and you would be amazed at where they can help you connect. With that, Mr. Mark Savodio is going to come up, and very interested in hearing what he has to say about financial health. Mark?
Good afternoon, everyone. How many of you were here when I spoke in January? Wow, everybody, okay. And how many of those of you, if you guys knew that I was going to be here speaking again, would have still shown up? Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. Now they're waterfalling. So to build on what we talked about last time, so the last presentation was Finance 101, so the basics. What's savings accounts, what's a credit card, a debit card. This is going to take it kind of the next step. And Mr. Ventrell and myself have kind of come up with some ideas for other programs to, again, more knowledge, more education in the financial world. So, in all my presentations, I like to include something goofy because talking about finance is kind of dreary sometimes. So, this is actually all my colleagues at SS&G, and this was our birthday card that we sent out to clients last year. So, yeah, we deal with money and it's kind of serious, but we do like to have fun from time to time. I don't think it's our current birthday one, but we were doing pictures for our last birthday card or Thanksgiving. I think it was Thanksgiving. And we went to a client who has a farm with mini animals. And it was kind of cool because they had bought a baby Brahma bull. So it looks like a bull, but it was only like this tall. But it's still like 2,000 pounds or something. So we were taking pictures of it, and I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to be next to that thing. I'm just going to be over here, because it's a lot bigger than me, in case it gets tired of us. And probably 5 minutes into taking pictures, the bull was like, yeah, I'm done with you guys, and started to trot away. But everybody was like standing next to him and petting him, and when he moved, it startled people. So it was cool, and I always think it's funny when photographers see something happening and they don't go to help, instead they keep taking pictures. This was the same case, so there's a great picture of the bull like running, and Teresa had her hands on the head trying to like stop it or something, but she wasn't stopping it. So anyways, long-winded story to tell you about funny hats and stuff. So anyways, so last time we talked about credit cards and some debt management. Who can tell me the difference between a credit card and a debit card.
Well, for one, I would say when you go to college, try to not get credit cards and stay with debit cards, because debit cards is the money that you already have, and credit cards is money that you don't have, but you have to pay back with interest. So in order not to go into debt, it's better to stick to debit cards than credit cards.
That's probably a better response than I would have given. But that's exactly correct. Anytime you use a debit card, the money or the purchase immediately comes out of your checking account. A credit card is just you promising the credit card company, yeah, at the end of the month, I'll probably pay you back. If you don't, then you start paying interest, and that escalates pretty quickly. So credit cards are not evil, but you have to take care when using them. But ideally, you know, for your guys' world, you don't really need credit cards at the moment. So we talked about credit score. It's kind of like your financial grade point average. The higher your credit score, the better rates that you can get on loans that you take out, whether it's car loans or mortgages or anything like that. 730 and up is considered excellent. And ways to build or improve your credit score is paying your bills on time. You know, think about things that you should do. Pay your bills. That helps your credit score. Having a debit card or a credit card, and having the ability, what they call the ability to borrow. So if you have a credit card of, you know, a $500 credit limit, then that's building your credit score, because what the institutions are looking at is saying, okay, someone has given you the ability to borrow $500. And if you use that responsibly, meaning you pay it off regularly or you don't max it out all the time, then your credit score goes up, because they say, okay, this person was given the ability to borrow and, you know, they didn't run away with it or abuse it. So today we're going to talk about some additional loans. An auto loan, which I think a lot of you guys will be experiencing in the near future if you haven't already. Does anybody have a car now? Car loans or anything associated with it? Cool. So typical car loans are for 5 years, and different than a credit card. So credit cards, again, you're borrowing money for purchases. Those purchases are not collateralized, meaning if you don't pay your credit card, the credit card company is not going to come and try and repossess your Starbucks latte or anything. It's already been consumed. Whereas with a car loan, your car is the collateral. So if you don't pay the car loan and you default on it, then, you know, to satisfy that loan, they take your car. So when thinking about buying a car, and this goes with any major purchase, whether it's a house or even think about college, it's what can I afford and what can I continue to afford. So those are two different things that I think people often forget about. You know, what can I afford is, okay, what can I go buy as far as a car? You know, what do the payments look like, and can I swing that on my current job? But what people often forget about is, you know, what you need to continue and maintain your car. And those items often are more than the car payment itself. And people forget about, okay, great, I got a car, but now I can't afford to put gas in it, so now it's just a giant obstacle in my driveway. So one of the things that you guys should be doing with any sort of purchase that you do is do some research. You know, figure out, we did the exercise last time about figuring out what your income is, what your expenses are, and then what's left over. Out of that leftover amount, that's for other things like a car loan. So you can do some simple research in determining what you can afford. Bankrate.com is a great website because they have all kinds of calculators and information and things that you can just go there and, you know, search for. And this is pulled right from Bankrate. So if you're looking for a car, and let's say it's $10,000, typical loan term is 5 years. And I just picked 3% interest rate. Depending on your credit score, that interest rate could be higher or lower. But your monthly payment, $179.69. That sounds reasonable, right? So the last time I did this exercise to high school kids, we actually had like a homework project. I made them look for a car, find it, research it, figure out what the payment would be and everything. And I had a smart kid that decided he was going to get a 1976 Corvette. Which, yeah, he did the numbers and he could make the payment, but what he also forgot about was you can't just go down to Tire Depot and get some tires that are just on the side of the road or anything. That vehicle is going to require, double the cost in tires. Repairs on it are going to be a lot more. So you have to factor those things in. So, all right, easy peasy, payment's nothing, right? You can afford it. Who can tell me some things that are associated with owning a car that's not your monthly payment? Upkeep, maintenance, such as new tires, oil changes, stuff like that. Okay. So new tires, you gotta get new tires every couple of years depending on how aggressive you drive. I drive pretty intensely, so I feel like I get new tires every year. New tires, not cheap, 150 bucks a piece. So did you factor that in? So if you're doing that every 2 years, let's do some quick math. 150 for one, it's 300, 600, 600 over 2 years, 24, 600 divided by 24. Come on guys, help me out here on the math. 40, so if you work that out to a monthly amount, that's another 40 bucks a month for tires. Someone over here, well,
insurance.
Insurance is super expensive, especially when you're younger and more careless like you guys, running into parked cars and stuff. I'm kidding, I've hit some inanimate objects in my life as well. In fact, one was just a couple years ago, I backed into a tree. But insurance is expensive. You're looking at $1,000, $2,000 a year. So another $100, $200 a month. Anybody else on Jack? Gas, yeah, so gas is running, let's just round down for easy math, $2 a gallon. Maybe your car gets 25 miles a gallon. So hopefully your job is pretty close. Mine is not. My commute is 45 to 60 minutes a day. So that's, 20 to 30 miles. That's 2 to 3 tanks of gas a day that I'm burning up. That doesn't sound like a lot, but I'm filling my car up once a month or once a week at 30 to 40 bucks a week. So add that on insurance, the maintenance. Anybody else?
Like parking passes if you're in college?
Yeah, parking passes aren't cheap. I'm trying to remember what I paid at Akron. It was 110 bucks a semester, I think. Not cheap. Tickets, I think it was funny. They used to just like assess you a ticket and then you just never paid it. And then Akron got smart and they started running your license plate. And if you still had outstanding parking tickets, they would not release your diploma to you. So, good news, at that time, the car was registered in my dad's name and he was not walking across the stage. But, good point, parking. If you're working in, a city, downtown Cleveland, you're looking at, 100, 200 bucks a month just for parking. Now, sometimes your employer will reimburse you for that, but that's just another ongoing cost that you have to think about. Other things that could just go wrong with your car. Transmission, that's a big one, but stupid stuff like windshield wipers. those break and they're kind of important. But all kinds of things, and that's a lot of times what people do not think about when they get a car. They're like, great, I'll get this car, it's awesome, it's a cheap payment, I can swing that, but then you don't realize all the additional costs each month that add up. Any questions? Any comments? Complaints? Home mortgage is the same exact process. The biggest mistake that people make is forgetting that they have to live in the home. Now that sounds like a stupid comment, right? But what I mean by that is people do the math and they say, great, I can afford this home. And then when they buy it and they move in, they're like, oh, I forgot I need to buy a couch. I need to buy chairs, tables, a bed. I don't know how many people that I know, friends of mine, that, you know, they get a job, like, oh, I'm making a lot of money, and immediately they're thinking starter home, you know, $450,000 home. Great, maybe you can make that payment, but then you go over there for a party or something and bring your own beer because they can't afford to supply beer for anyone else. Or they don't have anywhere for you to sit. And it's just, hey, I got these lawn chairs, why don't we just sit outside and have a campfire instead of sitting inside? Because they don't have any chairs. But same thing, there's added costs in owning a home that's on top of just the mortgage payment. You got the same things. Insurance, property taxes, which is ridiculous, especially depending on where you live. New windows, utilities, gas, electric, all that adds up. So do your due diligence anytime you make a big purchase and factor in all the additional costs. So student loans, this is another big purchase. So while you guys are kind of researching on where you want to go to school, and again, there's going to be the colleges that are going to be like that 76 Corvette. It's like, oh, I just can't wait to get inside of that. But what can you do at that college? What's that college going to do for you? Real life example, you guys know I'm big on real examples. This isn't made up. I met with a client on Wednesday. He had called me and said, oh, we need to do some work. My daughter, she's going to be starting her second year in college, and we need to figure out how to pay for it. Okay, we can do some brainstorming. Here's the issue. You know, when you're researching your schools, find a good fit for what you want to do. This girl, and I'm not knocking any sort of major or anything, but this girl is studying music philosophy with minor or something in education. Great. Something that I couldn't do just for my skill set. I suck at music, but anyways. But she's going to an expensive, prestigious school. And so I said, okay, what is her plan? He said, she's going to be a music teacher. Okay, great. So her investment is $30,000 a year to be just a music teacher. Again, not knocking music teaching at all, but is that the appropriate school? It's not even a school that's known for music. It's just something that was a couple hours away from home, and that was just about it. So think about, do you want to spend the time and the investment in a school that's, flashy name or just meets the criteria of your friends are there, or it's far enough from home that you don't have to see your parents all the time or anything like that. But does it fit for you? Matt mentioned earlier, Ohio U, always been known as party school, right? Do you go there for the parties, or do you go for one of the top 20 business schools in the country? So when you're thinking about those things, you gotta think about, how much am I gonna put myself in debt? You know, so it's very hard to avoid any student loan debt. You know, we have a student that I think his tuition bill, correct me, Mr. Venturello, was like $3 last year.
Yeah.
And he put in the time and the effort. He worked really hard and found as much money as he could get. He worked, got a paycheck, and you know, $3 or $20, whatever. He only had out of pocket of a few bucks. When student loans are going to be an option for you, but be careful with the student loans. I went to school with some kids that didn't need the student loans, but they still applied for the student loans, and that's what funded their entertainment for the school year. They didn't need it. That's an expensive party, because you're still paying interest on that. So what you'll have available to you is subsidized and unsubsidized loans. Anybody know the difference between the two?
Unsubsidized, the government pays subsidized, the federal government pays the interest while you're in college, and unsubsidized, they don't.
Exactly. So you'll get a loan for $5,000 each. And by the time you graduate, you know, you'll still owe $5,000 on the subsidized loans, but on the unsubsidized, that principal amount is now, you know, $7,000, $8,000, because that interest has been accruing all that time. Once you graduate, because while you're in school, everything's being deferred, the payments are deferred. But as soon as you graduate, I think it's, you know, 6 months after you graduate, then you get a knock on your door that says, all right, time to start paying. And you can't have an excuse that's like, well, you know, I worked really hard in college and I've just been laying low for a while. They still want their money, whether you're relaxing or looking for a job. Now you can apply for continued deferrals or different payment plans based on your situation. You know, if you graduated in 2008 or 2009 and the employment market was really rough and really no one could find a job, then you could get an extension. And say, okay, we'll give you a few more months to start repaying, but then you gotta start paying this. No one's doing this for free, everyone's doing it to make money, so they're not gonna be too kind. The repayment period, depending on some of the options that you elect, are usually 20 to 30 years. And it's like, oh great, I got 20 to 30 years to pay this off. But you have to remember that you're still paying interest that entire time over that 20 to 30 years. So they'll make the payments really attractive. Like, oh, you only have 17 bucks this month. Yeah, but it's gonna take you 30 years to pay it off. Borrower responsibilities. You know, with student loans, you're never gonna get away from student loans. You know, most loans, car loans, mortgages, you hit a rough patch and you're unemployed or anything like that, worst that's gonna happen is they take your car. Credit cards mount up and you can't pay them back, you can enter bankruptcy. And long legal process, but a lot of times your debts can be forgiven. The only item that emerges from bankruptcy and stays with you is student loans. Oh, you had a rough time, we took your car, we took your home, we forgave $100,000 in credit cards, okay. You still owe us your student loans. The only way you can get out of student loans, yeah, if you die, then they're like, well, we're not gonna collect anything now.
Normally, like the parents had some responsibility. We had a family situation where there was a death in our family, and the parents needed to pay regardless.
Exactly. So on these are in the student's name, but often, you know, if you only get $5,000 a year or a semester, that's not going to pay for it. So you have to get additional loans. And again, it goes back to your credit worthiness and your credit score. But most of the time, you're going to have guardians co-sign. So what that means is if you flake out and decide you're not going to pay the student loan payments anymore, now your guardians are on the hook for it. And that applies as well as if you pass away. The repayment period and the repayment process, once you graduate, like I said, there's a couple different options that you can do. You can take the straight flat payments that they calculate out as far as your monthly payment. Or they have income-based repayment. So you graduate, you're just getting started in your career, maybe not making a ton of money, they'll adjust your payment. But as your income goes up, your payments go up. That does not change the amount, it does not lessen the amount of interest that you're paying on the loans. If anything, it's going to be more expensive in the long run to do these different tiered schedules. And a lot of times they'll offer consolidation of your student loans. It's an option to look at. Sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. All that does is it takes all your student loans and rolls it into one giant loan with one payment in a blended interest rate. So you're usually not saving a lot on interest by consolidating, but usually it's just easier to make one payment than 8. So another great example is I met with a client last month. He just got married about a year ago. He did really well, ended up graduating, did not, bless you. He graduated with very little student loan debt, but then his wife that he married ended up having $200,000 in student loans. And again, goes back to, where you go, and does it fit your career, and what's it providing for you? She's a nurse, and nurses do pretty well, but she went to private institutions to get her nursing degree. Could she have gone elsewhere? Yeah, and she could have probably saved a ton of money in the process, but that's where she's at now. She is 27 years old, and it's like at $180,000 in student loan debt, and she makes about $42,000 a year. So again, think about what you're paying and what you're going to get out in the end. Any questions on that, guys? No? So that's on the loan side. The other thing I forgot to mention is when you're repaying your student loans. I mentioned that the loan amounts will be very low and manageable. And what I often recommend to individuals is, just because it's $17 a month doesn't mean that that's what you have to pay. If you have the ability, pay $100 a month or whatever it is. The more you pay, the faster that loan is paid off and the less interest that you're going to pay in the long run. But one thing to just be cautious about, anytime you make an extra payment or anything like that, the loan companies will always take the money. Now, how they apply it is different. So if your bill is $10 a month and you give them $100 and you don't tell them, hey, apply this to the principal only, they're just going to say, great, they had a windfall and they just paid us 9 months of payments in advance. So if you look at your statement, it says, hey, you don't owe anything next month. In fact, you don't owe anything until December. All you did was prepay those payments. It didn't overall affect your principal. You just paid ahead. So you're still paying the same amount of interest. You just made early payments. So just be aware of that. If you're paying additional amounts on your student loans, that the additional amounts is applied to the principal. So here's the other thing, dig around. You know, I talked about the student that paid a couple bucks last year for his schooling because everything got paid or he got grants and stuff. But dig, there's not a lot of people out there that are gonna do the research for you or say, hey, you know what, I like you, here's $10,000. It's not gonna happen. Dig around, just be aware there shouldn't be any service. They actually have to pay money for them to do the research for you. All this can be done on your own. Any of the schools that you go to, they have a general scholarship fund. The client I met with Wednesday, we went to the university website and we clicked on financial aid and general scholarship fund. You could fill out an application. All schools just have a pool of money. It's basically available to those who apply early enough and meet certain criteria. And often people stop there. But what we did is we went to the actual college's website. So there's the university, and then there's the college. College of Business, College of Music, or whatever, liberal arts, or whatever it was. When you go to this specific college, there's often a pool of money available for students in that college. And a lot of times people don't think of that. They think, oh, you know, I applied for financial aid at the university and, you know, I got a couple bucks. There's more money available when you drill down into your college or your major. Because those majors in those colleges get money from either the university or from donors that the donors specifically say this is for the College of Business or this is for the marketing program. So one other thing that we'll be kind of rolling out to you guys in the near future is a tool for you to search for colleges. And the tool is pretty impressive because whatever school or college that you're looking at, you can add it to your search list and it gives you a rundown based on your ACT, SAT, GPA. It'll match up to the criteria to get into the school. So it'll tell you, you know what, this school's a reach, or yeah, you can get into this pretty safely. And it'll give you information on, okay, this one's a reach, but if you bumped up your reading scores by 50 points, then it's a safe bet. It'll also give you a breakdown of the cost, the tuition, the room and board, and what you can expect in the way of grants and financial aid. So it gives you a nice picture on the cost of the school. Additionally, there's a scholarship search tool. And that tool mines the entire country's available scholarships in the private world. So you can enter search criteria, you can do general search, or you can drill it down and say, I'm of Eskimo ethnicity, and I'm entering, I don't know, music education. And you'll search down and say, okay, why don't you apply for this scholarship? So that's coming out. Any questions so far?
What is it exactly, like the tool? What?
So it's through BlackRock, which is a financial institution. And
Say that again.
BlackRock, one word. And we'll get you the information on it. But it's really robust. It has the application process or the link to it right on the website. And again, it goes back to what Matt was saying earlier. You gotta hustle for things, whether it's in career or applying for schools. You know, you can take out a bunch of loans or you can hustle and try and find some money and get it. Any other questions?
So I'll graduate in December, and I'm
I only took out one loan and it starts 6 months after. If you don't pay those loans on the bills on time, does that affect your credit score?
Yes.
Oh, great.
Now, if there's an issue with paying your student loans, you can talk to the lenders and see, whatever your situation may be. Hey, I need more time, or I'm going to grad school. If you go back to school, then it goes back into deferment or idle status. Or if it's, I didn't find the job I wanted, I'm just kind of doing a bridge job for the moment, my income's not what I expected it to be, then they'll come up with a payment plan for you. Any other questions? So all of this leads into kind of the next part. How does it set you up into the future? Meaning, okay, you went to school, graduated, what's your financial position at that time? Because what's the ultimate goal? Why are we doing these things? Why are we going to school? So we can get into a good school. Why are we going to college? So we can get into a great career that we like. Well, why are you doing all of that? So you can live comfortably, but at some point, what's the end game? Be done, right? Be on a beach. Don't worry about emails anymore. So the financial position that you put yourself in college has a ripple effect. For that nurse that's $180,000 in student loan debt, what do you think our discussions are? Late 20s, we should be having discussions on, hey, let's be saving for that kid that you have. Let's be saving for retirement. But instead, the majority of the conversation is, we got to get rid of that student loan debt. So the position that you find yourself in when you graduate is leading to 30, 40, 50 years from now, when you don't want to be dealing with the office or people. You want to be retired, playing golf or whatever it is kids today do. Beach. So retirement planning. What are the ways to be saving for retirement? Just put money into a bank account, great. There are specific retirement vehicles that are set up that have special tax benefits if you use them. But in retirement, basically there's a couple sources of income, meaning how do you support yourself in retirement? One is you just don't work or retire and you continue to work, or on a part-time basis. The other source of your retirement earnings is from what you've saved through your working years. The other one is Social Security. Now, I got a few years on you guys, and I'm not 100% sure I'm going to get Social Security, so I'm not too confident you guys are going to have Social Security in 50, 60 years. So really it comes down to, do you still want to be working? And how much have you put away? Now there's a couple different ways to save for retirement. There's what's called pre-tax and after-tax savings. So what that means is, and we're going to use small numbers because it's Sunday afternoon and it's easy for me. Let's say you make $100 in a year. And if you save money into a retirement plan on a pre-tax basis, let's say you put 10 bucks into a 401k. At the end of the year, you pay tax on $90, because that $10 that you put into a retirement plan is excluded from your income tax. Does everyone follow that so far? So that $10 goes into your retirement plan and ideally grows until you need it in retirement. So let's say that $10 grows to $1,000 in retirement. When you take that $1,000 out in retirement, all of that is taxable. So you got a tax benefit today when you put the $10 in, because you didn't pay taxes on it. but then when you take it out, you have to pay taxes. Remember this, the IRS is going to get paid one way or the other. After-tax savings, we'll use the same example, 100 bucks you made in a year. You put $10 into an after-tax retirement account. You still pay income tax on that $100 that you earned. You do not get a tax benefit today for the $10 that you put into the account. That $10 grows to $2,000 in retirement, and you take that $2,000 out in retirement, you do not pay tax on any of that $2,000. So you paid the government, or the IRS today, to put that $10 in, but you don't pay it on the backside. Any questions on that?
Is there a certain place or company you should go to when you start a retirement plan, or is that something you do alone?
Good question. So there's 2 ways to go. A lot of employers will provide a retirement plan to its employees. So here's kind of how the evolution has gone in retirement. It used to be, you know, you go to work at Hoover or any of the big companies, and you put in your time, you work there 20, 30 years, and when you retire, it was an agreement that the company would then pay you a pension of, you know, whatever amount per month for as long as you're alive. That used to be very common in the United States workforce. What happened was, you know, most people would retire at 60, 62, and then life expectancy was, you know, 70, 71. So the companies were on the hook to pay an income to these retired individuals for, you know, 10 years. Okay, they can do that. What happened is people started living longer, and now the companies were on the hook to be paying, you know, 30 years of these payments to individuals, and that became extremely expensive to the companies. So most employers do not have what's called a pension plan anymore. Very few are left. What they've switched to is putting the burden of retirement on the employee. The employer provides a savings vehicle like a 401k plan for the employees to save into, and as an enticement to save, the employers will often match any sort of contributions that you put into it. You put in $100, the employer says, awesome, here's 10 bucks. I'll put it in your account for you. So you can do it through your employer. Almost all employers have some sort of retirement plan available. But you will also need to do some of it on your own, so outside of a retirement plan. And you can do that in a just general savings account. You can open traditional or Roth IRAs. Those are totally at your own direction. So one of the questions, or a couple of the questions I always get is, when should I start saving? Now, yeah. And also, I'm, insert age, how am I doing? I have this much saved. And how do I compare? How much should I have? And really, it all depends on the individual. There's no set criteria. You're 25, you should have this much saved. It all depends on what's going on in your life, what's your financial situation, and what does retirement look like for you. If you're just going to, you know, continue doing part-time work for as long as you're alive, because some people do that, then your situation is going to be different than someone that says, you know what, at 50 I'm done. Those are different objectives there.
How do you financially get ready to pay for financial, for funeral homes?
For funeral homes? That's an interesting question. So they have some ways where you can prepay for a funeral, whether it's paying for, it's weird because my my mom worked at a cemetery, so there's all kinds of weird details on, you know, there's a cost for the coffin, there's a cost for the burying, then they put like the coffin in a case in the ground, maintenance, all kinds of stuff. So, you know, Social Security does pay you a little bit of money upon your death, but it's usually after the fact. Paying for it, you can talk to many funeral homes and set up a plan and prepay for a funeral. But other than that, it's out of pocket. You know, you just got to come up with the money, and it's expensive, yeah. So I always get, you know, individuals that are contributing just enough to the retirement plan to get the employer match. Because it usually works, you know, if you contribute 6% of your salary, the employer will match 50% of that. Or, you know, it varies, but if there's a minimum, most people do the minimum. And the minimum doesn't take you very far. A lot of times people say, you know what, I'm just starting out, I don't have a lot of money, so I'll contribute more later, I promise. Those really don't get you anywhere. What you need to do is figure out where you want to be and then back into the numbers on what it takes to get there and do baby steps. You know, if you're doing 3% of your pay now, you know, don't all of a sudden jump to 10%. You know, gradually work up to that. So I did a quick scenario here. This is 10 years older than you guys or more. But, you know, someone that's in their career, 29 years old, makes about 40 grand, and wants to retire at age 65, living on roughly kind of what they're living on now. So nothing extravagant. If they're, you know, spending $2 grand a month on living expenses now, then they're going to roughly spend that in retirement. And they say, you know what, I'm going to contribute 3% of my salary, just enough to get the match, which works out to about $1,900 a year savings. By doing that, that 29-year-old who retires at 65 is now reliant on Social Security by 68 because they've blown through $1,900 contributions. So think about that, what I said earlier, if you think Social Security is going to be around for you guys. So here's how the number, that is kind of hard to see, but all those contributions work up to, you know, $259,000. So good job, you've been saving, you know, almost $2 grand a year for 30 years, and you have $274,000 saved up. You've blown through that in less than 3 years. It's all gone. And now you're collecting Social Security if it's still there. So here's the other example is, you know what, I'm gonna just do a little bit now. I got a lot of things going. You know, I'll do more later when my financial situation is better. So they do just enough to get the match. And they say, you know what, in 10 years I'll be in a better position. I'll really ramp up savings at that time. To get to the point where that person can retire and have enough money, that means in 10 years, that's an additional $20,000 that they have to be saving a year. It's a huge number. It goes from $1,900 a year to $20,000, and this person was making 40 grand. It's half of your income. So some things to think about. Start with the minimum and gradually increase. You won't feel the change. In your paycheck, you're not going to feel the difference between 3% and 4%, and then 4% to 5%. And contribute what you can comfortably part with now. You know, we're talking about saving now, but you guys got a lot of things going on, you know. student loans or car payments, you do have to juggle. You know, I always say don't do one or the other. Accelerate, pay off student loans, and then start saving for retirement. There's kind of a balance between the two. The younger you are and the more debt that you have, typically you're gonna put more of your disposable income towards debt, but still do a little bit towards retirement. And think about it, because the money that you set aside for retirement in these special tax-blessed accounts, there are penalties if you take the money out early. So if you're thinking, hey, I'm gonna put this here for a little while, no, you gotta put that there for retirement. Because when you take it out, there's a 10% penalty on what you take out, plus potential income tax penalties. Any questions on that, guys? So like I said, prioritize your savings. Ignoring retirement now is probably smart. It's more important to focus on your near-term goals. Also, if you're getting jobs on campus, a lot of times universities, when they hire students, because it's a university or a public institution, the public institution has their own retirement plan, and often you're compelled to participate. So when I was in school, a lot of times kids worked on campus and they were paying into the retirement plan on campus, and then they were told, yeah, that money that has been set aside for you, you can always take that whenever you want or whenever you stop your job. Such a terrible mistake, because it worked out to maybe a couple $100 extra that they had, but the penalties that they incurred for taking that out and just the lack of time that they could have allowed that money to sit in their account and grow. So often you'll have something available to you. It's going to be a minimal amount, but still participate. Any questions on that, guys? Nope. And I like how Mr. Venturella went ahead and volunteered my services without even asking me earlier.
Yeah, I think so.
But that is fine. You guys, I think, know how to get a hold of me. If not, you can get my contact information. I'll be here afterwards. My company also has a Facebook page. They're always posting some, random articles, whether it's on financing for college or saving for retirement or any sort of topics. So you can follow that and read some of the articles and videos that are posted there. But like Mr. Venturella said, I'm always available for any questions that you guys have. If you get my information, shoot me an email or a phone call. Happy to discuss any issues or questions or anything that may pop up.